Living in one of the most progressive eras in history, we know exactly how dangerous and devastating it can be when the truth is silenced. This is exactly what Kelly Remmer exemplifies in her historical yet romantic fictional book, The Things We Cannot Say. In The Things We Cannot Say, we're introduced to two characters, Alina and Alice. Split between Nazi-occupied Poland and the frantic pace of modern life, Alina tells her story of her young love with a promising young medical student just as Poland is about to be invaded by Germany in what will become 5 years of brutal rule. While on the other side, Alina's granddaughter, Alice, a perpetually French, frazzled American mother, narrates her story and struggle of raising a son with autism and a daughter with a gifted mind, while only receiving minimal help from a husband that is distracted from the demands of his career. In this scene, against her better judgment, Alice agrees to help her grandmother, Alina, who is in a hospital after having a stroke and now approaching death. Alina, who's addressed as Babcia, asks Alice to fly to Poland to settle a complicated family business involving a secret the dying woman has kept for nearly 80 years. Most of the ink was faded, and only the bottom few lines of the letter were still vivid. It's in Polish. Although it's so light, I'm not sure even someone who did read the language could make sense of it. I can barely make out the first few lines, but I can see the name at the bottom, Tomasz. I look at her blankly, but she silently cries now. She reaches out to very gently take the older letter from my hands. She folds it again, then rests it on the tray table. Tears flow freely down her cheeks, but she wipes her face with the back of her hand and reaches with some determination for the iPad. She has all the icons she needs saved in her favorite screen, so she takes only a moment for her to start our conversation. Alice, find Tomasz. Alice, plain Poland. Alice, plain Trzebania. Babcia, free Tomasz. She looks at me expectantly, then hits the your turn button. My heart sinks all over again as I take the iPad. My hands tremble a little as I peck out my response. Babcia, no plane. She impatiently snatches the iPad from me. Yes, she types, correcting me as she accesses the icons from the recently used screen. Babcia, sick. Babcia, old. Babcia, no plane. Alice, plane. Alice, plane, Trzebania. Alice, find Tomasz. Babcia, free Tomasz. Why is Alina so desperate for Alice to go to Poland? What secret has she been holding for nearly the past 80 years? Rimmer does a phenomenal job in composing this historical fiction book, but three things that truly stood out to me was one, how she sheds light on the horrific events that occurred during World War I. This creates a sense of immersion, like you are in the scene. Second, even though I'm not into romance novel, Kelly manages to make the love between Alina and her boyfriend poetic and beautiful and consumer friendly. And lastly, I love how at the end, despite their differences, both stories come together to tell a message of one's voice and truth. I hope y'all will find the time to experience this emotional yet thrilling book with an unshakable reminder of how devastating it can be when one truth is silenced.